And even though the media has brainwashed us into trying to adhere to the male gaze, I still thought that my borderline obsession with how men view me was weird, unnatural, and wrong. But it's really not, because since day one we've been taught to be appealing to men.
When we as women view ourselves through the lens of men, even when no men are present. So it's like we're wondering about if we look pretty when we're alone, we're wondering about how our side profile looks like, and kind of consciously thinking about how men would perceive us if they were present, even if they're not. And it's a sort of self-objectifying sort of deal. Who doesn't love that?
Okay, so let's talk about what the male gaze is. That was coined by Laura Mulvey in 1975. She says this gaze is concocted by the person behind the camera, the characters in the film, and the spectator. It's all movies, it's superhero and action movies, it's of course horror movies, and it's torture movies, movies that are intentionally objectifying women, like James Bond movies and Wolf of Wall Street. It's pretty much everything.
Hello everyone, it is me, Salem. Welcome back to my channel. So when I first heard of the male and female gaze, I was pretty confused. I thought it meant like men and women had this like biological difference in the way that we blink. Yes, I know. Please don't judge me. I just have a very smooth brain. Why do I look so shiny? That ain't highlighter, that's sweat. But when I did more research into the male and female gaze, literally everything in my life just made sense. I finally found out why I was so obsessed with looking attractive to men, but I also found out why I always felt ugly when they did look at me. And I also found out why I actually feel a little bit more beautiful in the context of when a woman looks at me. And if you've been on TikTok at all, chances are you've come across these terms, the male and female gaze. I run into this trend all the time, whether it is the actual discussion of the male and female gaze.
Is anyone else's For You page just filled with discourse over what the male gaze is versus the female gaze?
Let's talk about the female gaze.
It's actually really interesting because this is like a prime example of the male gaze.
Or just it kind of remolded into I was written by a man, or I'm a man who was written by a woman. And the conversations surrounding these two topics are bigger than ever. And if some of you guys are looking at me like I have no idea what you're talking about, don't worry, I got you covered. Basically, you know that one scene in Transformers where Megan Fox is fixing a car? She's like sweating, has this perfect body, the camera pans up and down, and is filmed in the perspective of the main character that's played by Shia. That is the male gaze. Usually in many male-dominated movies, we see this shot. The shot of the female interest's body being dismembered and shot up close for the pleasure of the male audience. This results in women in the real world feeling the need to be sexy 24/7, and at the same time failing to do so. There is, however, a counterpart to this, which is the female gaze. However, this is a bit harder to define. Many people think the female gaze is just the opposite of the male gaze, so instead of the disembodying female body parts, it's just male body parts being dismembered for the female pleasure. A good example of this would be Magic Mike. But the female gaze is a lot more complicated than that. The female gaze pressures women to perform femininity 24/7 as well. And although many of you probably clicked on this video to hear me talk about how only the male gaze is toxic, I'm sorry to inform you, but both are problematic. This is gonna be another long video, so grab some tea, grab a blanket, or turn on your AC because it is the end of days type of hot out here. Like, this is not normal. You know, I got Octavian here with me, but y'all know the drill. I gotta pay my bills, so here's a word from our sponsor. Thank you to Proven for sponsoring this video. Proven is a woman-owned personalized skincare subscription that helps you create your own customized skincare. All you gotta do is go to proven.com and take their quiz where you'll answer a few questions about your skin, lifestyle, environment, and skin history. My main target was dryness and wrinkles. After you finish the quiz, Proven will create a simple 3-step regimen specifically for you, which includes 1 cleanser, 1 day cream with SPF, and 1 night cream. You can look through your results and really study them. The packaging is also 100% recyclable and super cute and unique. The package not only comes with these really cool info cards that discuss how to use your product and what's in it. The one product I absolutely loved was my personalized cleanser. Other cleansers make my skin feel like they're just cleaning the surface, but my Proven cleanser really feels like it's cleaning deeper, and it's also very gentle, so it doesn't feel like I'm using sandpaper to exfoliate, and my skin has definitely felt a lot more fresh and a lot less stressed. And your skin can feel like that too. Just go to proven.com, take the quiz yourself, and see your results. And of course, click the link below and use my code SALEM20 for $20 off your Proven skincare. Let's get into the video. Look how pretty my braids are. Pippi Longstocking who? When it comes to writing, the male protagonist is often strong and confident, capable, and then the female in the story is kind of there to just be there. Female characters are often there to be the object of desire by the love interest, but they're also there to be the object of desire for the audience. In filming, the male gaze is basically the perspective of the camera. It lingers over the female body in ways meant to titillate the eyeballs of the men watching. Titillate. Titillate. I hate that word. The camera basically films the woman in disembodied parts, which dehumanizes her. If that doesn't sound familiar quite yet, let me give you some examples. Some examples of the male gaze include women wearing tight, inappropriate clothing, while male counterparts are appropriately dressed for the occasion, framing women so that their cleavage is always in frame, and finally using the female body as a prop. And there are a lot of movies that do this, such as The Wolf of Wall Street, Transformers, and every Adam Sandler movie ever. Like, they all fall under the trope of ugly funny guy has very suspiciously hot wife. And the male gaze isn't only in movies, it's also extremely embedded into video games. Do you guys hear that? It sounds like, oh no, the boys TM are gonna come for my throat. An example of this is the Batman video game where Catwoman is always in the frame and her walk is very, yeah. Gaming mechanics make it so that she's always in front of you so you can see her butt. Sis looks good, not gonna lie, but what does Catwoman's butt have to do with Batman's dead parents? You know what I mean? The male gaze is also really big in music videos. I don't even think I have to dig too deep into like this category of male gaze, because anyone who's seen a male rapper music video, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Very often in music videos, women are hypersexualized. They're meant to show off his alpha male status as well as his wealth. Women are used as well as props in these music videos. No, like literally, like actual literal props. The only man you'd ever catch me being a prop for is my man's Kevin. We stand Kevin in this household. I mean, him and also Kylo Ren. He could choke me like he did General Hux and I'd thank him. Yeah. My family watches these videos. Mom, if you're watching this, it was a joke. Speaking of Kylo Ren, remember when his face was revealed in the first movie and it triggered a lot of fanboys?
How did you feel when Kylo Ren took his helmet off?
I and my entire theater laughed. He just looks so emo, New York City hipster douche.
Does the casting of Kylo Ren bother anyone else as much as me? I watched The Force Awakens again and Kylo does not sit well with me. He's such a dork for a lack of a better word. I can't help but think of Andy Samberg every time I look at him. I like the next big villain to look a little more badass. He doesn't even look anything like Han or Leia. I don't know, just my thought.
I thought, how can Leia and Han produce a kid that looks like that?
They were not pleased. Adam Driver was being called too ugly to play Kylo Ren. But the strange thing is, Kylo Ren quickly developed a cult-like following of a bunch of girls. Literally all the girls were like, if Kylo Ren choked me like he did General Hux, I'd thank him. Literally all the criticism that the fanboys gave Kylo Ren, such as looking too femme, too emo, were the exact things that attracted the fangirls to Kylo Ren in the first place. This is why e-boys, femboys, and men who look submissive and breedable are really popular right now, because these type of men challenge the male gaze head on. Men think women want men like from the Magic Mike movie. I mean, this is literally why we have the Chad meme. This group of, well, I can't say the group name because I'll get demonetized and I want to keep my coin. This group of He-Man Woman Hater Club. They believe the ultimate peak beauty a man can achieve is the Chad. He is the alpha male. He rules over all virgin males. He can sleep with any woman he wants. He's rich, he's ripped, he's genetically superior. The term has a history of being used by many manosphere groups. And although this certain group's belief shouldn't be taken as seriously, the truth is, it's not that far off of what men think women want in men. For example, men don't buy nice cars to impress women. They buy it to impress other men. Men and women are competitive in nature. And these type of men aren't competing against women to see who can have the best car. They're competing against other men, which in a way is a search for other male validation.
But how come I get more matches now that I look like this than I ever did looking like this?
Lately, I've been really into the concept of the female gaze and the difference between what men think it is and what it actually is. So someone made a video talking about how the female gaze is based on the eyes and the hands. The reason you didn't get matches when you were super fit like that is because what you were subscribing to is the male power fantasy. It's the way men think women want them to look and not the way women actually want men to look.
There's countless of studies of women saying that they don't find this type of lifestyle attractive, that they don't find this type of man attractive or style attractive. Of course, there are women who do like and prefer more masculine looking and presenting men, but the rise in women who like feminine men has been rising drastically in the past few years. This is because masculinity is often associated with a lot of drawbacks. Hypermasculinity is associated with disloyalty, narcissism, unempathetic traits, and extreme aggression. So when Kylo Ren took off his mask and he wasn't a chiseled Chad like the fanboys thought he would be, but instead someone who challenged the male gaze, it got the boys TM angry. And honestly, Kylo Ren isn't the only example that we can think of. I'm sure if y'all put two and two together, it's just the fact that there is a huge hatred for anything feminine. This is why a lot of men hate K-pop idols. And very often you see these type of men go out of their way and insult K-pop idols by calling them gay and just girls. Because according to their Chad standards, these type of men aren't considered real men, which is completely ridiculous because men come in all shapes and sizes. And other races. And it's absolutely hilarious because very often these are the type of men that make straight men question their entire sexuality.
He's got a nice smile, no homo, but
as a non-homosexual guy, I'm gonna tell you, it looks really handsome.
When you touch me. Only if you want me to. I mean, what?
The female gaze adheres to what is being implied, not seen. This means if a guy comes across as gentle, soft, misunderstood, romantic, mysterious, chances are women will look at them through the female gaze, which will make women look at these men as a more viable romantic partner that can offer them love, complexity, and understanding. In a way, they have more to offer than a Chad could ever offer. However, just as the male gaze can be applied to what men think women want, the same can be said about the female gaze. So maybe it's not the fact that the male gaze is the only thing that's toxic, or being ultra feminine is attractive, or that femininity itself is attractive. Maybe it's just the fact that both gazes are in the wrong. Why, hello there. Let's talk about the female gaze. So there isn't really a definition for the female gaze. Its theory surrounds what is not being shown, unlike the male gaze where it's defined by what is shown. The female gaze isn't about females dominating the screen. In 2016, Jill Soloway spoke about the challenge of defining the female gaze. She said that the female gaze is really about using the presence of a female perspective on screen to emphasize the story's emotions and characters. If the male gaze is all about what the audience sees, the female gaze is about what the audience feels. In other words, the female gaze is to be seen, understood, and accepted, with flaws and all. This is why women enjoy looking at other women just as much as men do, but from a different perspective. This is why there's so much historical art depicting women as feminine divine beings. It's the rosy cheeks, the frizzy hair. Are you finished? Thank you. It is the performance of femininity. The female gaze at first glance seems like a very nice idea, but honestly it's just as toxic as the male gaze, as it still pressures women to perform femininity. Performative femininity is the unrealistic, socially constructed ideals and standards placed on women. Women having flowing hair and being posed perfectly by a lake where little ducks and swans can serenade them isn't necessarily real either. It's still setting women in a box where they have to still perform for another person's perspective. It's that little voice of self-criticism that you feel every time you go out without wearing makeup. You almost feel guilty for not performing femininity all the time in your daily life. Sometimes you might even catch yourself being too judgy towards other women, and you might feel even guilty about it. But these feelings are not inherently your fault. Performative femininity pits women against each other. It's basically like one big contest that we're all simultaneously losing, and all of this is so subconscious that it's hard to pinpoint when you're feeling it, because we kind of had it embedded in our frontal lobe since we were kids. Let's take Disney movies for example. In Disney films, the target for little girls is to always want to be the princess, not the ugly old witch. Little girls want to be the fairest in the land, not the second fairest in the land. Performative femininity in children's movies can be found anywhere. Sorry, I just had to do that. Have you noticed that in the majority of anthropomorphic movies, did I say that right? Oh well, you know, talking animal movies, the male counterparts are usually scruffy in neutral tones and look more animalistic than their female counterparts. And the female counterparts are very often white and lighter tones with eyelashes and sometimes even womanly bodies, despite the female and male characters being both animals. Because performative femininity doesn't just stop at frogs. So that means that this frog has to have huge bobbies. I need to wash my eyes with holy water. Either way, female or male gaze, it's still putting women inside a box. And both gazes are still looking at women within the binary. So much so that not even a freaking frog can escape the male gaze or the female performativity. Sure, you can feel feminine every single day of your life, but it's hard to perform it every single day. And sure, you can feel masculine every day of your life, but it's hard to perform it. In general, it's pretty hard to meet the harsh standards that come with each gender stereotypes. And I think it's time to start thinking outside of these two binary gazes. Someone that I think challenges both the female and male gaze perfectly is artist and musician Dorian Electra. Dorian Electra is a gender fluid musician who's best known for their music and art that challenges gender expression. They wear more masculine clothing, but with a feminine twist. Create songs about being a man, but in a satirical way, all while wearing makeup, but still presenting in a masculine way by lowering their voice when they sing. Dorian says, "I'm not a woman dressing as a man. It's so much more complex than that, nor do I feel like a man all the time." So then how can we categorize people who don't fit the male or female gaze? Well, that's just the problem. The female gaze is all about performing femininity, and the male gaze is basically saying the same thing except more sexualized. But what people don't talk about is that these two gazes come together to create kind of a toxic dynamic, which can really end up hurting both parties, especially women. This can lead to women feeling like they're not feminine enough, that they're not pretty enough, they're not dainty enough, and they put themselves under the pressure of being perfect 24/7, even when a man isn't around. This is known as the internalized male gaze, which is even a bigger facade and greater performance than femininity itself. Have you ever been driving in a car and all of a sudden think to yourself, I should probably jut out my jaw while I'm driving just in case someone is seeing me? Or how about when you go get a Starbucks drink and you pretend to be the main character and you do a lot of this? I have some very unfortunate news for you. You are suffering from internalized male gaze, and it's the biggest reason why you feel ugly all the time. You're craving to be looked at, to be desired and wanted by men that aren't even paying attention to you, and no one really wants to talk about this because I think it's something that's shamed a lot in the woman community. Is that a thing? I guess in girl world, it's like low-key embarrassing to admit. I know I mentioned in the beginning of this video that I used to be unhealthily obsessed with appearing attractive to men, even when they weren't around me. Even though whenever I viewed myself through the male gaze, I couldn't help but feel like this, like I felt like literally like the ugliest little thing in the corner that no one wanted, and it really wore me down for the longest time. I don't have a flat stomach and I don't have huge bobbies, you know, I just don't look like Megan Fox. And because I was socialized at such a young age from Disney films, from boy movies, from the men around me, and just society in general, I was worried at the age of 7, that I was too fat, because I was taught that my mere existence, even as a child, was to eventually please the males around me and to be their eye candy, and that I had to put all my value and self-esteem and worth in how I look like. And obviously, if I'm not being valued by the males around me, then there's something clearly wrong with me. There's something fundamentally wrong with me, which led to years and years of body dysmorphia that I am still to this day affected by. I know many other women out there struggle with this. And when we look at ourselves through the female gaze, yeah, it feels great for a little bit. And I think there are people out there who can use the male gaze and female gaze to like fix their self-esteem almost, and it can be very validating for themselves. It still makes me feel very anxious to view myself through those lenses, because guess what? I don't feel feminine every single day. I don't feel feminine all the time. When I view myself in the male gaze, I think, well, I'm not doing something sexy enough. And then when I see myself in the female gaze, I think, well, I'm not dainty or cute enough to do that. And this is because both gazes are problematic and sexist and have very impossible standards for people to live up to. Why should I care if I fall under the male or the female gaze? Either way, I'm going to be putting myself in a box where I am to perform a certain task at all times for someone else's perspective. And that is tiring. And because the male and female gaze discourse has gotten a lot bigger, and the whole "I was written by a man" trend has gone big as well, people on TikTok are finally calling out just how toxic both sides are. It just doesn't make any sense. It's just dumb. Humans are so complex in and out that I just don't agree that they can both be put into the binary gazes. We spend the majority of our lives trying to find out new ways to be attractive to people who don't even care about us, and to be accepted by people we don't even like. And you don't even realize it until it truly starts to break you down, and all of a sudden your self-esteem plummets, and then you start to resent you. You start to resent your body, your mere existence, for not meeting those very dumb standards. I truly believe the key to solving this is to step back and to redefine the male and female gaze by seeing what you like. How do you view yourself? What is it that you desire? What is your gaze? The moment you start taking back your power and start doing things for you is when you truly start to value you for being you. And of course, the journey is not going to be easy because we've been taught since day one that these two things are the only things that you have to go by. These two things are the only things that are going to give you value, that are going to help guide you through this life in order to attract people. But I genuinely think it's time to dismantle both views. We need to start accepting ourselves as just being human. Not everything should be a performance. We should be allowed to do everyday, daily tasks without worrying how we're performing those tasks. Sometimes we're just doing daily tasks mindlessly like Sims, and Sims don't care about how they look when they set their house on fire or accidentally barbecue their baby. So why should we? That is the lesson for today's video. Reject modern humanity and be a randomized sim. Okay, y'all, that is it for today's video. I really hope that I touched someone's heart out there somewhere. Remember to like and subscribe and comment down below your experience with the male or female gaze, how you broke out of it, how you used to, you know, deal with it or whatever. Just talk to me about your experience. I read all my comments. Follow me on my Instagram and follow me on my SoundCloud because I make music and it's really good. Remember to do something that you love today. Go to Barnes & Noble and get a new book. Take a bath, eat your comfort food, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.